What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we need to talk about a relatively disappointing situation regarding cannabis stocks like sundial, tilray, canopy growth, aurora cannabis. All kinds of cannabis stocks are going to be affected by this, and this is exactly the opposite of what I was hoping to see happening over the next couple of months. We just got a story in, and it actually is a pretty positive headline. You wouldn't know anything's wrong by just reading the headline. It says, Booker says there's Republican support for safe banking plus cannabis compromise. Now, if you guys have been keeping up with the situation, you know that there is a full-fledged cannabis legalization bill called the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act in the Senate that Cory Booker is a sponsor for, right? He actually is a proponent of that bill. He wants to get it passed, or at least he says he does, okay? Senator Cory Booker, a Democrat from New Jersey, says he's willing to compromise, which is a good thing. Overall, you want politicians who are willing to compromise and actually get things done, but there is something that he said that I really don't like, okay? He plans to advance safe banking plus legislation, so basically making it safe for cannabis companies to bank as part of this compromise. And he predicts, this is the part that I really don't like, he predicts that could pass sometime between November's midterm elections and January. And you know what that smells like? It smells like he's trying to get reelected before he actually enacts any legislation that's meaningful, right? He's essentially saying that there's a carrot he's going to hold over our heads, that we'll get safe banking as long as he gets reelected, as long as we keep the status quo going. And that's not how this thing should go. We should essentially be getting these politicians to vote as the people want them to and legalize things that people want them to before the elections, and then vote them back in if they actually do what people want. They shouldn't be holding these rewards over our heads saying, oh, just one more term, you just need to give us one more term and then we'll actually do what the people want, and then we can be in there for another 2 years. That's not how this thing should go. We should be telling them what we want and they should be voting on it and then actually enacting that legislation that people want and voted them in the first place for, and then we can reelect them if we like what they've done. But if they just sit back and do nothing for their entire term and then say, we need to be voted back in before we can actually do anything else, I mean, there's plenty of time between now and the midterm elections to get this thing done. There's about 3 months before the midterm elections, and that's plenty of time to start getting some legislation through. And in my opinion, Cory Booker, he's just trying to get reelected another term. He's not actually trying to get this thing passed as soon as possible. He's just saying, oh, look at me. I'm going to get this thing passed as soon as I've been reelected. And, it's a tale as old as time. It's a very sad thing when you see politicians turning down this path. It's not a good thing for cannabis stocks because that means that they're just going to be on hold, essentially. If these politicians are not working to get this passed before the midterm elections, we're not going to see cannabis stocks doing very well until we actually get this legislation going through, which is exactly what we want. We want the legislation to go through ASAP. We don't want it to wait until after the midterm elections just because politicians want another term and want to have something to hold over our heads. We'd much rather it happen now. And unfortunately, a lot of these politicians aren't getting the message that hopefully a lot of people are going to be voting them out if they haven't actually made meaningful efforts to get this legislation passed. That's what I'm hoping for. And today's quote of the day is very applicable. It's from Dennis Adonis. And he says, voting is not a right. It is a method used to determine which politician was most able to brainwash you. And unfortunately, it seems like that's true now more than ever. It seems like politicians are just garnering votes from who knows where. They're just telling people they'll do all kinds of stuff, and people are believing them, and then they end up not doing those things when they actually get in, and it's a very sad situation. It's a very sad situation for the cannabis space in general, because that's an area that hasn't had meaningful progress in a very long time, and we are finally starting to see some glimmer of hope, and I am still hopeful that we can get some good politicians, maybe there are some out there, who will actually push this thing through before the midterms, who realize how important it is for their elections to actually get this thing through before the midterms, because people, in my opinion at least, aren't going to be too happy with politicians that are slow to the draw and haven't been making meaningful changes during their current terms. That's just my opinion, though, not financial advice. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.